Hey, Shalom. There we are, back again. Now, I told you guys when we were chatting earlier that I was going to get back online, and I'm in it because I thought we had a pretty good discussion going on about Jeffrey Epstein. And Pastor kept correcting me saying it's Epstein, Epstein. But if you do German language, then the I-E is the E sound. But if it's E-I, then it's the I sound. Hey, Teresa, welcome back. How you doing? You're on your new homestead, right? So is it going great for you? I got myself a cold drink. I changed clothes because I was in my in-town clothes when we were driving in the car. And we got home, we put away groceries and stuff. Oh, excuse me. It's still very hot here. I'm sweating. And Pastor Joe went up to the top part of our property. Very slow going. Teresa, I understand. Just know, hey, Homestead. Shalom, Claybank Homestead. Hey, sister. Hello, Brenda. Um, that just know when you homestead, it does go slow. But what really helps is if you have someone who visits you occasionally, because they will see the progress you made and they will say, oh yeah, that wasn't here the last time I was here, and that will make you feel better about your homesteading. Okay, so Pastor Joe was going up to the top of the property because Friday morning, Friday is sixth day morning, I had my goats tied out, and we had been gone for a trip, just real short, but I left my goats out so they could, eat. And I checked on them before they left, and I made sure they were untangled and that they had water and so on. And we got back fifth day evening, which would be Thursday evening, and they seemed fine. So sixth day morning, I get up and I'm getting ready to do my normal chores, like take care of the ducks and fetch water and hang clothes out for a line, and I heard a dog barking up there. So I went up there and I thought it was the neighbor's dog, and he has a lot of dogs. He has like 5 little dogs, and they yap, yap, yap. So I thought it was just them. I don't always have my goats up that way, and they're pygmy goats, so they're kind of small. And I went up there, and I was fully expecting to see his little yappy dog up there, and it wasn't. It was a young husky dog with its ears upright, blue eyes, and it was tearing into one of my baby goats. Hey, Prepper Frog, welcome back. Hey, Harriet, bless you. Shalom, sis. If you have any questions, you got me now. I hope you're doing okay. I really like seeing you online. Anyway, this dog was tearing into this poor little goat, and there was blood everywhere. And so I yelled at the dog, and I shot and missed, but it scared the dog enough that it took off. Look at D-Neck. That dog should have gotten lead poisoning, but I saw it was a young dog, and I thought, oh man, somebody paid a lot for this husky. So I did shoot at it, but it just scared it. But it took off running. And long story short, I picked up the goat. I brought it down to the house. I sprayed it with blue coat. I immediately put some molasses in his mouth, because molasses is a high sugar content, iron rich drink. And when you've got a goat in distress, a lot of times it's an energy that they can digest. Hey, Harry, shalom. And I washed that baby goat, shaved the wound areas, and then taken a better assessment. But it was prep day, and I'm busy, and we had plans, and so I just sprayed it with blue coat, because that's my answer to everything. And I also brought the other goats back down. When I brought it down, I brought the other goats with it. And I noticed my female, my adult, was laying down. And she just laid down all afternoon. She wouldn't eat, she wouldn't drink. And I started to get concerned for her. So I gave her molasses, and I gave them both water. And then I started going through my head. If you're a goat owner, there's multiple things that could be wrong with your goat when they won't eat. So they all got a tetanus shot, they all got wormed, they all got molasses and so on. And they ended up, the little one didn't make it. He passed away last night, and I finally examined his wound, and his wound was on his rear end, but it was a much larger and much deeper than I thought. And I'm almost thinking he may have had a ruptured intestine. And so he didn't make it. But the whole reason I'm talking about this is not because I want to tell you all about the whole thing, is Pastor, I heard a dog barking again on our border earlier, and Pastor went up there to just kind of keep watch and see if that dog shows up again. And the word is on the mountain that it belongs to the person who's doing the chicken houses near us. And he's a nice guy. I hope it's not his dog. But I had never seen this husky before. So that's where Pastor is. How are you guys doing? Did you guys already eat dinner? And what are the temperatures like in your area? Judy Fuller here. Namathile. Well, shalom. Bless you. Welcome. I don't mind talking about Jeffrey Epstein again, like a few more times. Hey, Hazak, what are you doing? That's my dog being bad. Hey, no. Get over here. Come on. Highest heat index in the country here, 120. Really, Okie? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you guys keeping cool? Free Spirit Press News, feeding my zoo now. Yeah, I get that. I try to make feeding the zoo a little more, like there's some little goats right now wandering around feeding themselves, but I cut some plants for the female because she's still not up to normal. And she got a shot of vitamin B12 today too to kind of help spur her. And I also got some probiotic paste that I'm going to give her. Heat index 106 here in north central Louisiana. So, wow. We did, and 60 in Idaho. Wait a minute, let me go back. 60 in Idaho, a little rain. Deborah Kessler, you lucky northern Idaho. That's great. I'm glad it's cool for you guys. What was I going to say? Oh, we spent the good part of the day out running errands so we could be in air conditioning. Because Pastor and I live in this every day, but that doesn't mean we have to, put up with it day after day. It starts to wear on you. You start losing energy. I got myself another drink, and I'm going to segue into, I set some things here so I could talk to y'all about them. This is to remind me. So when I grew up, I didn't drink soda, but as I got older, I started to drink soda like most Americans. Hazak, no. And so I've gone through periods where I don't drink it and I drink it. And I asked the Father, I prayed recently, like, Father, I know it's not good for me. Can you help me kind of not be so into it? And I started looking into alternative drinks because I like drinks with flavor and I like drinks with a little fizz. And praise Yah, there's a lot of alternatives out there. So I'm going to show you a couple of the things. I'm in Chicago, heading home tomorrow to West Tennessee. Be safe on your trip, sister. A little warm here in North Florida. I bet. 70-ish and gray, no rain, West Washington. Yeah, Washington's not going to be 106 except on occasional. Okay, so let me show you, and I'm not doing a product, like I have no interest in these other than that I drink them myself, and they are lower calorie than a regular soda. So one of them is clearly Canadian. It came out like in the 80s, and my daughter loved it, and we would drink it, and then it disappeared for a long time. And by popular demand, it came back as a drink. Now, it's not cheap. In our area, this is 2 for $5, but it has basically water, some cane sugar, not, sugar syrup or anything like that, citric acid, spring water. That's basically it. And it's calorie-wise, it's only 90 calories. So if you drink a whole one, that's still like a third of what a Coke or a Pepsi would be. And it tastes all right. So that's one of the drinks I've turned to. Another one is this V8 drink. Now, they have more than one flavor. Can you see that? Yes, energy drink. This is not the tomatoey, celery-tasting V8. This is a peach mango, a 50% blend of 6 vegetables and fruit juices and puree from concentrate with green tea extract and other natural flavors. I'm going to try water, kefir, then add berries. Exactly. 2 Wild Onions Homestead, shalom. I am talking about alternative to soda drinks right now. I will get into Jeffrey Epstein again. after I'm doing this, but I wanted to do this because I had to get myself a drink. It's very warm here. And I wanted to let you guys in on alternatives. So this guy only has 50 calories for this can. And it's got 15 milligrams of sodium, which is not a whole lot. It's 13 total carbohydrate grams, and total sugar grams is only 11, whereas like a soda is like, I want to say 30 grams. So this is less than half. It has potassium, vitamin C, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, vitamin B6, vitamin B12. So it's not a significant source of saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, dietary fiber, vitamin D, calcium, or iron. But it has potassium, and potassium is good for your heart. Yep, it's Zevia made with stevia, Westhold Forge. Zevia is another, I have some in the house, but I didn't bring it. It's a soda made with stevia, and like zero calories. So that's a really good alternative too. And this one has caffeine. It's got as much caffeine as like a cup of coffee. So I like these in the morning to kind of get me pepped up. Then another, this is I think my last alternative right now, is, and this is not brand specific. This is an example of what I'm talking about. La Croix is another brand, and like Seagram's makes some, but the 0-calorie carbonated waters that have some flavoring. Hazak, you be good, my dog. I got to make sure he behaves himself out here. This has 0 fat, 0 sodium, 0 carbohydrate, 0 sugar, 0 protein. It's just like a flavored carbonated water, and I like that. Like I said, I like the fizz, but what I'll do if I feel like having a Pepsi or something is I'll fill the cup with like that much Pepsi, so it's not all the calories, and then this much of the 0 water, and maybe this much of a flavored fruit drink or something. So instead of me drinking like 300 calories, I'm trying to make this like 120. And I think it's helped. Like I don't have the same moody up and down swings that come when you drink a fully carbonated, fully sugared soda. Hazak, no, come here. Come here. I'm going to put you in the house if you can't behave. You need to quit. And so those are some of my suggestions if you have the same thoughts that I do about what you're drinking. Just make it less calories, because as we get older, our body can't process all that stuff quite as much. All right, so 27 of you are on here. I've got 5 thumbs up. If you want to give me a thumbs up, that'd be great. Okay, someone says Switchel or a haymaker drink has apple cider vinegar, ginger, and maple syrup or honey. I've heard of Switchel, and I think it's a great idea. And I should make more of that. Let me see here. All they used in the South was moonshine. Track rock, that's not true. Lemonade. The corruption in this country is off the charts. Stand by for the reset. It's pretty true as far as if you have a lot of money, just assume aborted fetal cell in all pops now. Now, FJ Fajoling, it's not in the soda itself. They use them in the process to test flavors. So I don't know that it's actually in the sodas, but let's get back to the corruption in the country, because as much as I've traveled around the world a bit. I've been in other countries. I've experienced other governments, and I still think our country is the best. But our country is far from pure, I will say. Our country has done things like test nuclear weapons out in our deserts, and then, the locals get nuked. Our country has tested or studied people who had venereal disease and told them they were being treated but didn't actually treat them. Our country has given money to other countries to influence their politics and overthrown their governments and tried to install our own little puppet governments. I mean, our country is far from innocent. And then the real wicked evil stuff that I have lived through starts with the Kennedys. as a family, because the father, Joseph, was one of those people during Prohibition who was doing alcohol runs, like going to Canada, buying a bunch of whiskey, bringing it down. You know, America, that's capitalism, but it was illegal as anything. It was a federal, I think, a federal law, prohibition, and that's where he made his money. And then he kind of bought his son into politics. But Chappaquiddick, that whole Chappaquiddick thing with Teddy Kennedy, I think he was the one dating Mary Jo Kopernecki, something like that. She's in the car, they're drunk, they crash the car, she drowns. Those boys don't even try to save her. They just walk home. That's just flat out murder, and none of them are tried for it. That's kind of the first rich people don't have the same justice as poor people in America event that I remember that I was alive for. And then a little bit later on, there is one of the nephews that gets convicted of rape, and so on, and so on, and so on. And then, you know this, like, after the turn of the century, and now we're in the 21st century, there are the whispers, and there are the hints, and there are the accusations. Like, if you listen to Art Bell, the radio show, when he was on as a late night radio show host, he had guests who talked about seeing dirty, scruffy kids, you know, being taken to places like a park in a van, and a federal guy gets out in a suit and everything, and they let these dirty little grubby kids play, and then they load them all in the van and they disappear. Like, our government has children that have been kidnapped that are being moved around, and little hints of things like that. Watered tea. You're hearing the I'm hearing the rooster crow. Yeah, I truly believe all politicians on the national league are owned by something. 70% state politicians are owned, and 50% of county and town. Corruption exists in all levels of bureaucracy. Most is benign, but the community of intact is maligned. Then there's a lot that is straight up malign. Dealing with the VA, opened my eyes to that. True, the VA. So was Epstein murdered? I think he was. Lady of Lake Fork, Shalom, sisters and brothers. Shalom. Yeah, I think Epstein was murdered, and I think he was murdered for the reasons everyone's talking about. It's been on Twitter, it's been on social media, it's been on the news, it's been on BBC News, ABC News, CBS News. He knew a lot of rich people. There is a picture of him with Donald Trump. And like I said earlier, when I did my live stream earlier, just because there's a picture doesn't mean you had a relationship, because, you know, famous people have pictures with people they don't know all the time. He had an interview before 2008 where he said he knew Jeffrey Epstein, and they got along, but after he was convicted in Florida the first time, Donald Trump cut those ties, said, I don't want anything to do with that guy, I don't, you know, he's disgusting and whatever. Oh gosh, now I lost my point. You guys help me get back on track. He knew too much. Exactly. There you go. He's a super rich, like a stock market guy. I'm trying to remember, hedge fund manager or something like that, which is basically this mortgage company has a bunch of mortgages, and he buys them and then he sells them to somebody else and he makes money on it. I mean, he doesn't really work, right? And he is known in the Miami club scene. He is known to Bill Clinton. I talked about that, where Bill Clinton says, his press agent says, he only rode on that guy's private airplane 4 times. Well, and the Fox News finds the records of the flights. He's been on there 26 times plus. So, and Bill Clinton and Vince Foster and all of that, if you don't know anything about that, go back and research Vince Foster. There's nefarious things that go on with these very, very rich people, and they have the money and the political influence to cover this stuff up. And it's not new. When I was researching Eleanor Roosevelt and Franklin Roosevelt, when I did the video back on that, there were, you know, Tammany Hall. There was a whole Irish political thing going on in New York that I'm sure got replaced by the mafia and the Italian guys who, you know, put people in office that they can influence. And so it's not unheard of that somebody with a lot of money who's donated millions of dollars to your political campaign now will have political say. And something that happened with Jeffrey Epstein in Florida, let's go back here, see what you guys said. High fructose corn syrup makes man boobs. Really? You guys are having these conversations on the side? It's not that. It's the hormones that your mom took while she was pregnant. If she took too many female hormones, that's what affected that. Anyway, Epstein already was charged in Florida. And our labor secretary, who just resigned in July, was the prosecuting attorney who cut a deal with Epstein to seal that case. And there were 36 victims in that case. And he agreed to seal that so the details of what he actually did to those people and what they were charging him with would not be allowed into the public domain. So that's not a conspiracy, that's a fact. This happened. And the prosecuting attorney said they did the deal so that they could guarantee he would get jail time. And he did. He got 13 months in jail, but most of it was work release. White collar crime, right? Molesting little children. You get to be on work release instead of in some penned up, federal penitentiary with hardened criminals. So when this comes around now, and it's in New York, so, the politics there and whatever, I don't even know. Maybe the Italians don't like him because he's Jewish. I have no idea. But somebody catches him, and somebody accuses him. Somebody arrests him for the same kind of sex crimes, prostitution ring, whatever, with underage girls, right? These people are like the Emperor Caligula, utterly corrupt and no limits. Well, and you're going to have to forgive me for getting off on the religious side, but Pastor and I live our faith, so it's important to us. When you're a person who loves money, and this guy loved money, and he made a lot of money, there's a God linked with that, prosperity God. And when you worship any other God than the one God, then stuff like molesting little children is permissible. He's not going to see that as wrong. He's going to see it as, I got the money and I want to do this thing, and these young girls are too stupid to realize that I'm a jerk, and I don't want to go with a mature woman because she knows I'm a slimy SOB, but these young girls will be impressed by all my money and my planes and everything. He doesn't care. He does not have a conscience, because having a conscience comes from having some guidelines in your life. And guidelines in your life, if you want the really basic ones that are the basic premises for our legal system and a lot of legal systems, it's the Bible. It starts with the 10 Commandments, but there's even more commandments in the Word that deal with things like don't cheat people, and if you steal from them, you owe them 4 times in return, and don't move the boundaries of your property so you're not cheating your neighbor. And if you have a business, keep your scales an even balance so you don't cheat your customers. I mean, the Bible lays down the morals. So if you don't follow it, then it doesn't matter to you. Your selfish need and desire is what drives you. And it drove him and other people with him, like Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew. I was talking about that before the break. Prince Andrew had Sarah Ferguson, right? She seemed like a very spirited, decent-looking female wife, and all of a sudden they split up, and she's with somebody else. What happened there? My fjord horse's name is Fjell, Norwegian for rock or mountain. Pronounced Fjell. Was not available. Hang on. For YouTube, hey, knows why I had to get creative. Is that fjalling? Fjalling? Fjord ponies are adorable, BT dubs. I love fjord ponies, and they're supposedly have a very good, what am I trying to say? They're sweet-tempered. Fjalling, if you have some, please go ahead and comment. I like money pretty good. You don't have to rely on friendship to get what you want. Track Rock, I don't know you. I don't think I've ever seen you comment on my videos. let's just say I think you should live a moral life. I think a moral life is a peaceful and quiet life, and we should not be shocked or amazed when people who are immoral do immoral things, but we should be outraged, and we should demand that the full letter of the law be enacted. With Jeffrey Epstein, doesn't matter. It's justice has been served, however it was served, whether he served it himself or if someone of his very influential friends served him. But what it did, and what I found interesting that the BBC News journalist said was, there are no conspiracy theories out there. There is no evidence that anybody like Bill Clinton had anything to do with Epstein or Epstein. And there's no evidence that any of those rich people would want him murdered. And I think that's just plain being disingenuous. It's common sense that if he knows lots and lots of rich people, and he has weird predilections, and most of those people are not moral either, and they have weird predilections, they don't want that information coming out. And Pastor made a really good point when he said, if you are a victim right now, you should start holding press conferences. You should be in your lawyer's office writing out affidavits about everything that happened to you, because if they will off Jeffrey, you could be on their list. Let's see what else we got here. Roman emperors' elites are a great analogy for Epstein stuff. Now we just need a Vesuvius to wipe out their den of villainy. And who's to say something like that might not happen in New York, Okie Storm Chaser? We can hope. Sister, we have the same behavior here on our platform. I am concerned what to do. I have seen fellow creators doing things which disturb me. I have done what I could. I don't know if it is enough. And sometimes it's not up to us, Lady of Lake Fork. You do as much as you can. As far as YouTube, I know there are platforms that are really evil and wicked. And what you need to do is report them to YouTube. And then maybe the FCC, if it's really bad, if you think they're doing something criminal. Love is greater than money to me. Well, exactly. Love is very powerful, and it's worth a lot more in my mind. Did not Stephen Bannon just expose the belief of sin more so get more redemption? Did not Stephen? Would explain a lot of the elite's behavior. Of sin more so get more redemption? Yah forbid. Isn't that Romans 6, Pastor? Maybe he's not in there. I'm pretty sure Romans 6 said, should we sin more that grace may abound more? Yah forbid. No, you don't commit more sins so you get better redemption. That's a false logic right there. I just wrote you, MPJ, on your Viking preparedness mail. Okay. I hardly catch a live stream where I can comment. Well, Fjalling, go ahead and comment now. I'm a survivalist in the North Georgia mountains. I know the revolting man personally. Okay, Track Rock. All right. Cool. We were out there. This spring, I think? And went to an event out there. Were you at that event? Staying family friendly with mods to keep it that way requires work. Romans 6, that's right. Philia Ministries, the King is coming. Amen, and Yah bless you, sister. Amen, and Yah bless you too, Philia. We were talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the conspiracy theories swirling around him. And just how people will behave immorally if they don't have the Father's instructions and walk in his way. Because as you know, and I know, when you walk in the Father's way, it's a peaceful, quiet, honest life. It's not full of all these weird possibilities, because the Father tells you specifically don't have anything to do with that stuff. And there's a reason why. The best sermon is a good example, however, but people also need to hear, hear the truth. Yep, everyone needs a fjord pony. He is extraordinary with children, but can be naughty like a ridgeback with me. Yeah. Ridgebacks are very, very strong-minded, but eventually my dog and I have come to an understanding, because he's now 2 going on 3, and we had a lot of discussions on things before he finally figured out what Mom wanted. Okay. Whether he killed himself or not, something fishy is afoot. And chicken fried Maynard, you're right. And what comes to mind to me, because for the longest time, if you wanted to say, yeah, there's something wrong with those elites, you're a conspiracy theorist. There's something wrong with you for thinking that. Well, then there was the press about that sex cult up in New York City with really rich people, and it was like NSM12 or something. It was numbers and letters. And one of them died, and a bunch of people came out and talked about it and said, yes, they were a part of it, and it was a weird sex cult thing. So that breaks news. And then maybe a year later, Jeffrey Epstein is arrested. So I don't think we're making this stuff up. I think there's some truth and a basis to reality of it. And that's really scary. So then our system of justice should, if it's played out correctly, he gets arrested, he goes to trial, everyone gets to have their say, and a judge or a jury or both make a decision about him. But if you take him to court and he has to testify and all the victims have to testify, then all those people who don't want to be exposed would be exposed. And so by him killing himself, whether he did it himself or someone else had him murdered, none of those people come to light. And the Bible has a saying about that. People who live in the darkness hate the light because they don't want their sins exposed. And that's exactly what's going on with those people. What do you guys think? I have a theory that none of the mass shooters had a dog they were close to. Couldn't have done it if they had a dog they were close to. Whether they did or not, am I prepper? There's a whole lot more in common with them. Most of them were on some sort of antidepressant drug or mind-altering drug, Ritalin and things like that. And I think it's a more likely scenario that they're either mentally ill and they're treating it, or that drug, because you're not supposed to withdraw from it or anything like that, it's very regulated, caused them to kind of go off, right? It's so hard to find like-minded folks. People will just hate you. People will just hate you. Teresa, really? You're being hated for your different views? I'm so sorry about that. One clever girl. My husband and I worked in Quantico Brig in the late 80s. Anytime there was a high-profile prisoner, a civilian, they had what I think was federal marshals guarding them. Makes sense, right? Federal marshals can go across state lines, right, sweetie? Federal marshals can go across state lines, right? Yeah, so if you're a high-profile criminal, they may want to move you around to keep you safe, and they're going to use marshals because they can travel anywhere within the state, whereas a state official or even a county like a sheriff, they wouldn't be able to. Most were not raised with a mother and father who were married and their biological parents. Exactly. Sometimes they're raised by their grandparents. It's hard to believe that they had been guarded by regular corrections officers, right? And it's in New York. And like I said, New York has been corrupt for a very long time. I don't know who can, who's the power right now, but the mafia is up there. And who else? Who else am I thinking of? The Irish were up there for a long time running the political things. But it's such a bureaucracy in New York, too. It would be really, really easy to bribe somebody to just turn off the camera or walk away from the monitor for an hour or whatever. The guards don't make a lot of money. And there aren't enough of them, and they are abused when they're at work anyway by the prisoners. The prisoners call them names and spit on them and do all sorts of nasty things. So they don't have a whole lot of motivation to be super good at their job. Okay. They had special transport to and from court. Driving home from PA, we'll catch your live stream next time. Okay, bye, Lena. Drive safe. My parents' sin grieves me. They are very lost and anger easily when I attempt sharing the way with them. Fjalling, the best we can do as far as the way is throw your seeds out, because the Holy Spirit is what catches a person. if that's the way you want it. Like your words will not convince a person to go to Yahweh. What your words can do is throw the seed, and if the seed hits prepared ground, it'll bear fruit. And you can pray for them, because if you're angering them, you're not getting anywhere, and it's not worth the grief that it's going to cause you and them. So pray for them, and throw your seeds out, and hopefully the Holy Spirit will wake them up. Hopefully the Holy Spirit chooses them, because the Bible says, and I think I quoted it in my community section recently, that those who hear, their eyes will be open and their ears will be open, and they will hearken to the Father. But the Father closes people's eyes and ears intentionally, lest they get woken up and follow the truth, or lest they hear these things, because he knows their heart. And he's going to choose people who he knows will listen and wake up and get on fire for his word and spread it. So the best thing you can do is pray for them and just toss the seeds. But don't worry about their sins grieving you. Those sins are not yours. They will not be standing at Judgment Day with you. They have to atone pay for their own sins. Russian mafia getting bigger there. They have no limits. And my prepper, I'm going to tell you a little story about the Russian mafia. I don't speak Russian, but I can hear Russian, and I know it's Russian versus, say, Spanish. And I was visiting my mom in Florida, and we were at a farmer's market down there, and this van pulled up, and guys in suits got out, and they were not Americans. Americans don't wear suits to farmers markets in Florida. They were European, and I can't explain, what's the difference between an American well-made suit and a European suit, but they were European suits. And 4 of them get out, and they kind of stand right near this van, and out steps a very, in my mind, Russian-looking woman. She's dressed pretty formally, and then a small child gets out too, and she's dressed up. They're like wearing dresses, and the lady's hair is done and everything. And they proceed to go shopping around this farmer's market. These bodyguards and this, I thought she had to be a Russian mafia wife and her child. And they're flanked the whole time by these guys. And then when she's done shopping, the van pulls up, the dudes do their deal, she gets in, and they pile in after her. On the same trip, we saw a dude at the beach who was listening to rock and roll music, wearing a leopard print Speedo with a 6-pack of beer sitting out there. And I can't explain to you what about him made me think he was foreign, but it struck me as odd. And then I went swimming in the ocean, and there's some little kid out there, and I'm trying to talk to him, and his bodyguards are like kind of angling me away from him, and they're speaking Russian to each other. So I'm almost certain the Russian mafia is in Florida. So they could be up there in New York too. It could be, a whole thing that they're trying to cover up. Who knows about that? I'm not going to investigate into that very deeply, because I don't want anything to do with those people. I want to be retired and enjoy my life. I have friends who have been on those drugs since they were small. When they go between prescriptions, I won't hear from them for months. All of them are atheists too. Yeah, those prescriptions are just bad. And that's a pretty modern thing. When did Ritalin start to come out?
Oh, I think in the 70s, maybe?
Late 70s, maybe.
Yeah.
Early 80s, Ritalin suddenly is a thing. And it's just a way to drug all these young men.
No, it was in the 70s. I had a friend on it in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I didn't. But yeah, it's a way to drug all these young men. Young men have a lot of energy. Why would you drug that? Why wouldn't you direct it towards something? Hey, you got all that energy? Here's a pile of rocks. Move them over there.
I was just thinking pile of rocks.
That's what old-timey people used to do. You got too much energy? Go shovel out the barn. Come back in a couple hours when you're done. You don't just drug your children. Not like that. That's just wrong. Give them Tylenol and stuff. Lots of Italian people are in Florida, yes, and lots of New Yorkers and New Jerseyites. Great shofar vid. Thank you, John Brennan. Great shofar. Oh, great shofar vid this morning. That was you, dear.
I don't even know what it was on.
I love
Oh,
you, Mom. Thank you for sharing her with us. Okay. That's right. Retired and happy. None ya biz. Give him a football instead. Exactly. Get him a puppy. Let him raise that guy up. I mean, come on now. Have him mow your yard. All right. So we're gonna segue from the conspiracy theorists because I still have stuff over here I wanted to talk to you guys about. And if we want to go back, we can. Um, this is to remind me to tell you all that our wild plums are ripe. These are biannual plums, so they only come once every 2 years. And they're really small. Can you see that? Looks almost like a grape. And they have a big pit in the middle. And I've been watching my plum trees now for weeks because I saw the little green ones as springtime came. We actually saw the flowers first, and they're finally dropping. And in our case, this particular plum, we've already done scientific testing. This is the color they are when they are ripe. They are this kind of reddish pink. If they get dark, they're too ripe and they're really difficult. So I have picked them once already on our property and made jam out of them right here. And the thing about this jam is most of the flavor of that plum is in the skin. There's not a lot of flesh on this thing. And so you make the jam with the skin involved. And the first time we did it, the skin was pretty chewy. It was kind of like having jerky in your jam. And some people loved it. Some people thought it was awesome and flavorful. And some of us were like, nah, I don't want to fight my jam to eat it. So this time around, thanks to Solar Tim, I used a food processor on those skins and I made them a little softer. But my hope is to be able to pick more because more are falling and to make jam another time, which is going to bring me into my next subject. These are wild grapes. I'll even get them out. These are the wild grapes that I brought back from High Prairie Acres last year too. This is the bunch. That's the little stem of them. And they are tiny, tiny. Can you see that? How small they are? They're smaller than blueberries. This isn't like a regular size grape, small regular grape. But see, they're ripe, they're dark. No, you leave her alone. And I picked a bunch. I picked a bunch of those stems. I cut them off, and then I got all the grapes off of them. So I have 2 bags like this. This is for my wine. You remember my wine making last year. I made grape wine, and it was kind of sweet. Hello, little buddy. Can you see if I can get her on camera?
Our porch is a mess.
Our porch is a mess. She's over by the basil. That's one of the baby goats who did not get attacked. Anyway, yeah, the grapes now on our property are also ripe. And so I am going to be picking them, and they are more the normal size because we pruned the vines. These little ones came from vines that haven't been pruned in years. There were 4 vines thick, layers of these things. And your first year growth is the growth that grows the fruit. So I will be making Grandma Pat's wild grape wine like I did last year. You make it in a crock. I made it in a 5-gallon bucket. It was the grapes, water, sugar, and yeast. And that's all it was. And 11 days, it made wine. And then this last thing right here is not that drink. This is the blackberry wine I made this year with blackberries on the land and did the same thing. I used a recipe from Texas Prepper 2. He has a blackberry wine recipe, and then I tweaked it a little because I wanted to try to make a dry wine. I didn't want it to be as sweet, so I didn't use as much sugar. But if you don't use a lot of sugar, then your wine is not as strong. The alcohol content is not as strong. And so what we have here is a fruity tasting kind of not as strong wine. Fruity tasting, not as strong. And something we did with this, my daughter and son-in-law were up, and he was studying about wine. after you've made the wine, after it's fermented and then stopped bubbling and you rebottle it, you can add more juice into it. So one of the blackberry wines that I made, I did that. I got more blackberry juice, squeezed the juice out, put a little bit of sugar, and added it back into the already fermented wine, and that tasted better than the plain wine I made just initially. By having the juice and the sugar added back in, it made the flavor a little bit better. So that's the wine I made, and it tastes pretty good, and it's not super strong. But Grandma Pat's, last year I had 28 ounces of grapes, 28 ounces, her recipe, this is how it works. 28 ounces of water, 28 ounces of sugar, and you put it all together. So it was pretty strong too, but it tasted okay. Are you guys? Woo! Everybody gets in on the live feeds. Everybody gets in on the live feeds. I threw some grain down there for them. They're looking for it. Everybody wants to get involved. So do you guys have fruit that's coming ripe in your area? We also got a bunch of pears. We have these little, probably Bosque pears that we picked at High Prairie I brought down, and I'm going to have to do something with them soon. I got a whole bowl of them, and if I let them sit here, they'll rot. Let's see what your comments are. My Italian common-law husband abandoned me to go back to Florida. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that, Fjalling. Big difference in Italian and Russian language. Absolutely, it sounds totally different. Boppity boopy. Little plums. You think those plums are so small. Now, the thing about those plums, over the bus, it's the blackberry one. I can make plum wine. I may make plum wine. The thing about those plums is they are on the property wild. They have not been pruned in years. And because it's Shemitah for us this year, we didn't prune any of the fruit things except the grapes. But come this February, I'm going to prune all those plum trees as well, and we'll see if they grow a bigger fruit once they've been pruned. Pruning with fruit trees is really important. How do they taste fresh? Am I prepper? The plums are very tart, fresh. And there's very little flesh, so it's not like a lovely eating plum. These things you're going to cook with. And jam, you make 6 cups of the plum juice and 8 cups of sugar. So the jam's really yummy. Drop all to me next time through DFW. I am near Sulphur Springs. Fruit and nuts are nature's fast food. You have a Frisian horse too? Oh my gosh, Fjalling, you must have a horse farm. I was just thinking add grapes to the mead. Absolutely.
Well, I can smell that billy goat.
Yeah. With all the fresh fruit.
He can't live around here.
He's not going to live, honey. I just have him out there eating stuff. All right, and then another thing on the table, the last thing on the table, since you guys mentioned fruit and nut, are these bars. They're called Kind. Again, this is not a product, like I'm not reviewing these things for the company. I'm just recommending them to you because there's something we've tried and we really like. And the good thing is this only has 5 grams of sugar and 6 grams of protein, and it's made with heart-healthy almonds. It's gluten-free. Ingredients you can see and pronounce, and they sell these at Wally World as well as other stores. It's 59% nuts, it's gluten-free, low glycemic index, dairy-free, no genetically engineered ingredients, no sugar alcohols, low sodium, 0 trans fat, and high in fiber. So these things are good for you. Now, one bar has 180 calories. That's not, 180 calories is...
That's like 2 shots of bourbon.
Yeah, that's like 2 shots of bourbon. So it's not your diet food, but it's not bad for you food, and you're going to get 16 carbs, 7 grams of fiber. You're going to get 140 milligrams of sodium. That's a little bit high. But no sugar, alcohol, and 6 grams of protein. So you can have this or a Snicker bar. And the Snicker bar is going to have no nutritional value, and this is going to have some. So we recommend them, and they come in lots of different flavors. Cranberry and cashew, and this one is dark chocolate, nut, and sea salt.
Man, we should buy like a case of.
I
How
know,
long what's the expiration date on it?
I don't know, Pastor. I didn't look at the expiration
Here,
date.
I'll look at it.
Yeah, you look. You look while I'm
The
talking.
case we put them in long-term supply.
Yeah, put them in your long-term supply. Do the wild persimmons grow as far north as y'all? Mayhaws. Yes, Lady of Lake Fork. Both of them grow in the area. We checked on our persimmon trees. They do have persimmons on them, but they're not ripe. Of course, with persimmons, you wait till the first frost, or else they're very astringent. And the thing about our land is, all the years before this, the deer get the persimmons, because the persimmon trees are not real tall. And so my idea was to put the stockings on the persimmons as well, but Pastor doesn't seem as keen, and he thinks they're now tall enough that we'll be able to pick some of the persimmons up top. I do have a video on doing things with persimmons. It's one of my older videos, and I use an old food processor in that video to get the pulp separated from the seeds. But it's delicious. Persimmons are absolutely delicious. The mayhaw, I don't think we have mayhaw, we have black haw. And we know where the trees are, and we've seen the fruit, and we've tasted the fruit, but I've never done anything with them yet.
Wes told Forge says they put tarps down and shake the trees and the persimmons fall out.
That makes the most sense, right, Wes?
That's what we want to do.
Westhold.
That's what we want to do with hickory nuts.
Yeah, that's what we should do. The hickory nuts are on the ground now. And then there was one other thing. The passion fruit are not yet ripe, but the vines are everywhere. And we have the little passion fruit vines as well as the big ones that make the little passion fruit are purple. They look like a plum when they're ripe.
They do it for mulberries too.
Oh, the elderberries. Our elderberries are ripe now.
Are they?
Yeah, but we don't have a lot. Our bushes are under a bunch of other much taller trees, and they are like 20 feet tall. So my idea for this past February was to make clippings and replant them somewhere where we could reach them.
We could put a ladder in the back of a pickup.
Oh yeah, that'd be a smart idea. Let's do that. For Shimata, though, because we couldn't prune, we didn't prune them, and that'll have to happen in February. But the blackberries are ripe right now. And the elderberries are ripe right now. The blackberries are done. We made our jam. I made the wine. We were pretty busy and hot this summer, so I didn't make any cobbler or pie, which is a shame, because blackberry pie is so good. Just Dano, shalom. I'm late here, but I don't know if I should call out a brother that is flaunting his wife by what he does, what he says. Behavior is the key to motivations of people. Thoughts? No, Just Dano.
Go to him.
Yeah, right. Go to his channel. Go to him. Talk to him if you have an issue with him. That's Matthew 18. You don't come here and make a thing out of it. That's not how we treat family.
Mark's here, C103.
C103's here?
Yeah.
Shalom, Mark. Time to punt some ducks. You won't punt my ducks. I'll knock you out. Ducks want a drink. They just came from the pond. All that quacking, you'd think they let Alex Jones back on YouTube. Woo!
You're way up high.
What do you mean I'm way up high?
That's okay. I'm keeping up with your current comments now.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I canned pears and will make a pear balsamic glaze. Ooh, none of your biz. I make a balsamic vinegar honey reduction that is to die for. So a pear balsamic glaze would be delicious.
Did Bitty Boo change her name?
Bitty Boo went to Bitty Boo home decor kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Still her.
How did the watermelon wine turn out? That was a couple of years ago. We have white peaches. Wine is coming to my mind. Hey, wine is pretty easy to make. And if you cook with it or if you enjoy having it with your meal, why not? The watermelon wine videos are older videos, but the watermelon wine turned out very well. It tasted like watermelon, sort of, and it was very strong because the recipe he used recommended 3 pounds of sugar, with the fruit. And wow, you drank that and it knocked your socks off. But it was really good, and I kept it and used it and gave it to people. Scroll down to the end. What kind of plums did you say those were? Bitty Boo? They're some sort of wild plum. They were already on the property. And someone pointed out the tree to us, and then we watched it, and then as fruit came and fell, we tested it for flavor and things like that. Okay. Anyone experienced in taking plum starts?
Maybe starts.
Plum starts. There's some really good videos online about taking cuttings from fruit trees.
Who's that guy
and
I
things.
watch that does all the apple cuttings? Man, he's good.
He's almost too intense, though.
Yeah, he's like a doctorate in the stuff, it seems
Right.
like.
It's really, really involved. But if you put on YouTube, like, taking cuttings from trees and things like that, there are some really good videos. That's how I learned how to do the elderberry cuttings, which I intend to do.
And my prepper said they look like sandhill plums. I think he's right.
Sure, why not? I have no idea. They're definitely not the big, juicy ones that come from California. Sandhill, like an old school variety, cooking plum, because that's my guess. Papa Prepper is a good one to follow on YouTube for plants, etc. Okay. Our local seeded long green striped melons are in for 10 days. North Texas watermelon preserves. There you
What's going on, dog?
Watermelon preserves would be delicious. I could even
Sue?
see like a watermelon chutney or a watermelon marmalade. Wouldn't that be interesting? Yeah, make sure the dogs aren't bad.
They're not.
Okay. All right. So, Okie Robbie's does videos on starting trees. Okay. David the Good has good grafting and propagating videos. Okay. I've heard of David the Good. Someone else talked about that. I'm thinking of doing orchids on my in-laws place.
Orchard.
Oh, orchard. Do it, brother.
Tell them when the best time to plant a tree is.
Best time to plant a tree. What's your guess? Tell me now, you guys. What do you think? When is the best time to plant a fruit tree? Waiting for an answer.
Tick-tock.
Tick-tock.
Paul says fall. Nanya Biz says fall. Lady of Lake Fork says now. Any month with an R. Biddy Boo fall. We Tree Bonsai fall. Okay, tell them.
Technically, fall is correct, but it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago is the best time to have planted that fruit tree, so you can be loving that fruit now. Having said that, today is the next best answer. Plant those things as soon as you can, because we had the realization, and now we're getting to see the fruit of it. Do you mind running in there and getting that bowl of pears for me?
No, I'll get them for you. Where are
They're right inside the door on the left. A fruit tree.
Tell Westhold Forge that I'm now your fetch and carry guy.
Westhold Forge, he is now my fetch and carry guy. Bang for buck, a fruit tree will yield you pounds and pounds and pounds of fruit, whereas your kale plant is going to only give you so much kale.
We're looking at trying to grow lots of calories, and this is
right. Lots of calorie-wise, fruit trees are your best thing. So I'm going to take the lines out because these are just sitting here while they ripen. Can you all see these pears? This is what I shook out of the tree at High Prairie Acres just in the 10 minutes before we left. I hadn't really known that the fruit was ripe, and when I came out that morning, some of them had fallen down, and there wasn't like a huge storm or anything, and that's your key to a fruit being ripe, is that it falls off the tree.
That's when it's perfect.
That's when it's perfect. So I thought, oh, there's a couple there, that means these guys are ripe. But it didn't make sense for me to just stand there and pull each little pear down. Plus, a lot of them were above my head. So I just shook the branches and collected what fell out.
West Fork method.
Right?
Or Westhold.
Westhold method. Except we were getting ready to leave, remember?
Right,
I couldn't put a sheet. So I just shook it and picked them up. Now, they're small.
They're good, though.
But they taste good, and they are ripe. And this is worth it. And we planted those trees 13 years ago? I think we planted them 13 years ago.
Okay. Your
semi-dwarf fruit tree variety is going to start giving you fruit even the first year that you plant it, but it won't be a lot. It'll be a few. And then the next year, it'll have more, and about by your fourth year, it'll be fruiting pretty well. But you want to prune them anyway. But your standard variety, your old school like Macintosh and Jonathan and things like that, they start fruiting 5 to 7 years after you plant them. And they're going to go from like nothing the year before to like 30 pounds the next year. And then, you know, like you've seen the old trees. We've had people offer, hey, come out and take pears from my tree. They're ripe and whatever. And I've taken out 5 and 6 women, and they will get 5 and 6 5-gallon buckets full of fruit off that tree. And there'll still be more up in the top.
Remember our trees in Kansas?
Oh, yeah.
I used to ask people at work, do you like pears? And they'd say yes. And I'd say, do you want me to bring some in? And they'd say yes. And I'd put a grocery bag, a paper grocery bag of pears on their desk.
Of pears, because fruit trees, again, properly pruned, you do it every February, and you cut all the water spout, the vertically growing limbs off. You trim all of them off, and you leave like 3 or 4 limbs in the middle of the tree, so it looks kind of like that. And you want light and air to be in between those limbs.
A robin or a football should be able to go through.
Yeah, a robin or a football should be able to be thrown through the limbs that you leave on that tree.
Well, the robin flies.
Of course. And they should not be too tall. You don't want them getting 30 feet tall. We've got a pear tree in our orchard down here right now that's way too tall. So when you cut that off in February, you cut it on a slant so that water won't pool and rot the top of that thing. But you definitely cut it. You don't want them 30 feet tall. What you want is something you can be able to reach and pull things off of. And when you prune them back, boy, all the growth, all that first year growth is what produces the fruit. And it's in the Back to Eden method too on YouTube if you watch that video. Paul Gauchi does that. Let's see. Lots of sandhill plums in Kansas, I meant. Near Great Bend, Kansas, we would always find them. Certainly could be. They were here when we got here. When is the best time to hit the thumbs up? All the time. Hopping ahead to the Ozarks from Washington State. Have a favorite old plum tree. Would love to bring a start from. Any advice? I've not started trees. Thank you. If y'all go to YouTube and type in there taking a start or something from your fruit tree, and there'll be good suggestions there. I'm not an expert. Have you guys ever tried any produce from Van Zant's Farmer's Market?
We don't talk
about OPSEC. Oh. Okay. Sorry, we cannot answer that question, but thanks for the tip. If anybody's in that area, he just gave some good information. Strawberries are done after 3 years. Bury them in wood chips in the fall, and new ones will come up in the spring. Exactly right. And they're gonna keep producing like that until about the 3rd or 4th year, and then the older plants stop. Do you watch Old Alabama Gardener? He did a squash vine borer.
You don't watch many videos.
I watched Bumblebee Junction.
Sounds like Petticoat Junction.
He did a squash vine borer method that looked good. No, but I may check that out because we do have squash vine borers here. And a lady that I knew who had an awesome garden would cut the vine open, grab the borer, take it out, and then wrap the vine back up. But she said the plants that only worked about 50% of the time would survive that. One thing I do when I have squash growing is I go out there and I squish every one of the squash beetles that I find. And I have heard, but I have not yet done this. Well, I have sort of, that ducks will eat those squash bugs. Not the vine borers, the squash bugs. So, next year, after we've had them in the orchard like we did this summer, and they have used the water and they've fertilized all the soil in the orchard, I will plant squash down there and other things, green beans and so on.
We're probably going to do it big next year.
Yeah, probably do gardening big, because in the past when we had ducks in the orchard and I planted squash, I had a zucchini plant that was the size of a large trash can, like a 30, 50 gallon trash can. It was a very large plant. And we did get zucchini off of it. But then later on in the summer, I thought maybe a deer figured out it was there and started to just eat the plant. PJ, you really need a wrench.
For what?
For what?
I have lots of wrenches.
Go and sin no more.
Oh, was that Wheat Tree?
Yeah.
She's saying I need to be like her.
Oh, you need to be a moderator.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can make him one. I thought I could only do that if I was on a computer, but I'll try. Especially if I touch his name. I'm supposed to be getting some sort of directions on that thing. Hey, Weetree, while I've got you on here, you guys are always telling me, make sure to make this thing a top chat, not a live chat, or a live chat, not a top chat. I finally figured out how that works. So which one is it that I'm supposed to make sure it is? Can you please tell me that? And I'm going to take this off the stand so I can do that thing. So my train here this year, no bees to speak of, used a bird feather to pollinate the zucchini. So should it be live in the red box, or let me see if I can do this. Oh, it won't let me.
You probably got to set it when you start it.
It doesn't allow you that option. You see here, maybe I can get it. No, that's not it either.
Just go with what you got.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I have to figure it out. There we go. Live chat is what I want. Okay. All right. It is a live chat.
You should see if they're still there.
Is everybody still there? Or did I just sign myself out? Okay. They're still there.
Here,
Thank you, Sergeant Jane. You made a comment back there, and I wanted to answer it, and I can't remember. Sergeant James, I can't remember what you said. It's good to see you, though.
Send it again.
Yeah, send it again.
Say again, over.
I get too enthusiastic when I visit. That's funny. Questions. When is the best time to hit that thumbs up?
Right now.
Right now is the best time to hit that thing. Questions. I think we've pretty much established that Epstein, it's E-I, not I-E. So I think it's Epstein.
Well, if it's E-I, it should be pronounced Epstein, but I think I've heard it pronounced Epstein.
So people are just pronouncing it wrong.
I don't really care. He's dead. He's not
right.
going to bother little girls.
He'd been murdered. That's right. He's not bothering little girls, but all his friends will. So victims, I say you, he dead.
He dead.
That's right, he did.
DRT.
Dead right there. Maybe I can... nope, that's not what I want to do.
How do you guys keep your house cool?
How do we keep our house cool? Okay. We designed the house to have doors and windows that are right across from each other. So that way, if there's a breeze, it can go all the way through the house. That was one thing. Another thing we did was it's got a cupola right at the top. If you see pictures of it, there's this little roof thing up there.
Looks like a doghouse on top of the roof.
Right, looks like a doghouse up on top, but what it is an open space that the warm air can come up, and then there's screening so the warm air can distribute out and hopefully pull cool air in. That's another way. We have a porch here on the north side of the house that we're sitting at right now that when you're outside, if you're under shade, shade's always 15 degrees cooler than being out in the sunlight. So it's cooler during the day. Now, I'm not going to say it's like it's air conditioned out here, but it's definitely a cooler temperature. Another thing we do, if we know the day is going to be really warm, like today was, we will leave our windows and doors. We shut all of that at about 9-ish. When the temperature, you can tell it's starting to heat up, to trap the cooler air inside. And because of solar Tim, praise Yah, we have enough power that we can run a fan. And so when you're sweating, like I am right now, if you get the fan to blow across you, evaporation kind of cools you down. And then I had a suggestion by a brother to put like something cold like water in front of the fan to do sort of that swamp cooler effect. And we've done it in the past, and it kind of worked.
Swamp coolers really work when there's no humidity, and there's very high humidity here.
Yeah, they work better when there's no humidity. put a low voltage fan up there with your solar power and push the hot air out. That is one of the ideas he and Solar Tim talked about, was getting the solar powered attic fans to kind of pull it.
So MI Prepper said hot houses are going to be a problem in the South when there is no AC, and my solution to that is you got to look at how the people lived 100 years ago.
Right. That's
Well,
why.
they didn't probably hear what I said.
Yeah, he said. Say it again, Pastor. My brain is fried. Hot houses are going to be a problem if there's no electricity. Like living in Texas and everything is going to be a problem.
You gotta live like the people lived 100 years ago.
You got to live like the people who lived 100 years ago did. And I talked to someone who was like in his 80s, and I said, "What did you do when it was super hot?" And he said they would sleep on the floor, or they would sleep out on the porch, or right in front of the screen door, because as hot as it gets during the day, in a lot of places, and our place, it goes down to 73, 74 at night. Well, that's what you set your air conditioner at anyway. So the temperature here at night is pretty cool. So just pulling it in with a fan is a lot better. Okay, so let's see. There was another question there. Any chance Epstein has been exfilled, as some are suggesting, to protect him? Too many people would have to be involved in that kind of movement, and it is pastor's opinion that that is not possible. One of them would talk. Somebody would see him, take pictures of him, or something.
How you doing, Cody?
Who knows? All right. Any other questions? Let's see. Houses had taller ceilings and transom windows and stuff too. If I remember living before air conditioning, am I old? Well, are you a white beard now, Brother Mark? Because we got the white in our hair, so technically we are becoming the older people.
So, we have really high ceilings too.
Yes, we have really high ceilings too. We designed this house. It's not 8-foot ceilings like most standard houses. They're like 12, 14 feet tall. Grandma had a sleeping porch, cots, with just a sheet for hot August night. Exactly. And pastors talked about here, our land is like this, and at the bottom is a creek, building some kind of sleeping platforms down there with screening around them, so if it's a super hot night, it's always cooler lower down near water, so we could sleep there. Okay, somebody said listen to Pastor Joe's sermons. It was 101 today before the real feel. Oh yeah, when you live in the South, you have got to...
but you gotta love the winters.
Right, you gotta know. You gotta know it's gonna be warm.
What are you Goaties doing?
Doesn't Bill Mollison talk about AC off-grid?
We have AC. We can run it 2 hours a day.
I don't know.
You didn't tell him that either. We have AC.
Yeah, we have AC. We can run it 2 hours a day on our solar, but that's all. Saw one guy hook up a radiator fan from a vehicle, 24 volt. Yeah, swamp cooler only works with no humidity. Is the humidity worse in the Ozarks than just outside of there? There's humidity all across the United States at this, is this latitude, longitude? The South has a lot. Florida's very humid, Virginia's very humid, North and South Carolina. It's only Texas where you get the very dry air. Okay. Grandparents had a home built in 1907. It was built for heat. Exactly. In the good old days, you had the big tall doors, you had the tall ceilings.
It's easy to heat our house. It's hard to cool.
Yeah, and the other thing about our house is our insulation and our walls and stuff weren't really up. So this year will be the first winter we spend where it'll be insulated, so we can tell how much heat it'll actually hold.
Plus, we're going to have 2 stoves.
Plus, we're going to have 2 stoves. We're going to have some sort of wood cook stove in the kitchen this year. So that should help. The human body takes about 2 weeks to acclimate to extreme temps. We don't need AC as much as we think we do. Well, Hednar tribesmen, you bring up a good point. We've only had air conditioning since what, like the 60s
Oh, in America?
in America?
Yeah, I don't think most people had it till the 70s.
Maybe even the 70s. So somehow people survived the last
Couple centuries.
3,000 years without air conditioning. You just figure things out. You sit under your trees. You put on a wet cloth around your neck. Right? You sleep during the hot part of the day, and then you get up and do your work in the cooler hours. Which reminds me, I was going to go. It doesn't matter. I can rest. I had a heck of a day yesterday. So, start driving without using AC. Here's a little tip.
We just got AC in a vehicle. We haven't had AC in a vehicle forever.
Pastor and I just got an air-conditioned vehicle this year. We drove without AC for years and years
30
and years.
years.
I think the Trooper may have had.
It did until it died.
Until it died. But there's a reason my midlife crisis mobile was a big old lifted Jeep with doors that came off. Because when it was hot like this, you just take the doors off and drive around and you get evaporation and it's great. So, yeah, you can survive without AC. And you can do things like make yourself a spring house or get ice blocks from your pond in the winter and keep it in sawdust underground and then whip that guy out and sit on it. Stuff like that. It made 120 here in northeast Texas.
Move to the Ozarks.
Okay, so I just touched that person and it said I could make them a moderator. So I tried.
So then let me put my name in. Let me say something.
Yeah, say something and see if I can do it.
Mod
Con. He's going to be a Mod Con.
Baby.
Stephen Ben Nunn has good insight on
there we
such
go.
things. I would not be surprised. All right, let me get to your thing. All right, Mod. All right, so I'm touching your thing, but it's not allowing me to do it.
They don't like me.
I don't get that. I just touched somebody else's, and it offered me all those options.
Maybe you touched it differently.
Golly. Come on. Ridiculous. Frustrating. Shalom from Texas. Shalom, shalom. I bet you're burning up. Super hot. When you work outside, it doesn't seem as big a deal with no AC. Exactly.
Justano said press and hold my name.
Press and hold. All right, Justano. I'm doing it, and I'm still not getting. Oh, there it is. You're a rock star.
Thank you, Dano.
Oh, thank you, Justano. He's a moderator now. There we go.
Now, what can I do with my newfound power?
Weed Tree Bonsai has now got a wrench, and you know he's going to wield the powers.
Oh, I see.
105 here today. Oi. 107 ambient temperature day. It was so humid here yesterday. Rocking chairs were invented to move air around you. Guessing on this one. This guy right here, I create my own little breeze by rocking back and forth. Maybe. Yeah. Humid. It's been very humid. It rained, and then it's getting hot. These drinks sweat.
Our floor sweated.
Part of our floor was sweating from all the humidity. I remember being at Fort Hood running around with steam coming off everyone's head and shoulders. Good times.
Did that in Washington State.
Oh, man, that's funny. Please don't silence me.
Oh, I have power.
You have power.
I have the power.
Behave. Don't make Pastor Joe mad.
I have a really low tolerance for BS.
Right? He does not. Don't make Pastor Joe mad. That's all I'm going to say. He's swift with the justice. So behave and you'll be fine. I lived in Fort Polk, Louisiana before. Much better here. Much better. Do you mean it was even more humid down there? Hook an old-fashioned fan to the rocking chair. He is He-Man now.
That's because I said I have the power.
That's right. I need some more drink.
Don't we all? Yes,
please.
yes.
Some
yes,
juice.
Sister Kate.
Some juice and some bubbly. I
Yeah.
have one up here, just, you know. I was going to visit, but I don't trust my truck. Wait a minute. V8, 20 years old, I need to recognize she's almost ready. So, Lady of Lake Fork, what we do when we take trips, and we had many old vehicles that we didn't trust, is we rent a vehicle for a day or two. And it's, if you get a good deal, it can be, you know, $30, $40. And that way, you know you're going to get there and back. And if you aren't, the company will like bring you another car if their car breaks down and so on. Because little day trips of live museums, living history museums, and things like that are worth it if you have the time. You learn a lot. Basic training in Missouri, July to September. I lived in Fort Polk. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm trying to dig my first foxhole in frozen ground at Fort Dix, and I looked around and dug nearby disturbed earth from previous fire. Smart. Oh yeah, we lived in a third world country that was primarily jungle. We know what heat and humidity are. Too hot for my fire water. Thank you, Pastor.
You want anything special in that?
What's PJF doing over there? He's fixing me another drink. Thank you. I think winter and summer is not so bad. I wish you had called me when y'all were coming through. I would have had dinner ready for y'all. We're not going to impose on anybody. Besides, we never said where we were, and we never said where we were going. So you don't know where we were. Questions. Do you have any questions? Now that we're here. We solved the Jeffrey Epstein mystery. I'm more than happy to comment on other things. I like having the full season stew. I make my berries into medium syrup so I can add a splash to my water as an alternative. If it's the fizz you miss, cranberry juice will fit that. Go lightly. It's a lot of vitamin C. Yep. I do all those things. If you're going on a long trip, renting can be much cheaper than the wear and tear. Yep.
They want to know what you're drinking.
Houston is worth. What am I drinking? Okay. What did you mix me, Pastor?
Some of that bubbly water and some juice.
So zero calorie water and juice and ice.
Yeah, I gave you more ice.
That's what I like. I like some flavor. I like a little bubbly. Please post all questions in all caps, please. Alaska was the worst place
I loved Alaska.
to dig foxholes. Well, yeah, I can see that. Frozen and rocky soil, had to dig an M60 machine gun pit. Well, that had to have been a good time. Also, couldn't walk into the house. My wife kept the house at like 56 degrees, almost blacked out a few times. Yeah, I know what that's like. My husband's family really likes cold homes. Just put on another sweater.
David M. said, why did you make wine? Why not?
David M., you made wine. Why? Good question. Okay, I will answer that question. I've said this on other videos too. It's not a mystery. We had a brother in the congregation who decided to try to make wine. And pastor, being a prepper and everything, had looked into winemaking a long time ago and said, it's way too difficult. We're not even going to try it. So this brother has tons of persimmons, and he took his persimmons and he got wine yeast and sugar and water, and he made a persimmon wine.
Pretty good.
And it was pretty good. Now, there's a couple of reasons to do that. If you have fruit and a lot of it, you can make jam, you can dehydrate it, you can make cobbler and pie and all sorts of things, but it's another option to use the fruit to make wine, because now you have a drink that will last for a while. A lot of people cook with it. Some people enjoy having wine with a meal because the flavor of the food and the wine often go together, and it makes a really nice flavor. in this brother's particular case, they had all these persimmons. They had made persimmon jam and persimmon fruit leathers and everything, and he liked wine. So he decided he would make his own wine. And then he brought it to Shabbat and let us all taste test it. And from that, and he described how he made it. It was really simple. Pastor's like, well, shoot, we have all this watermelon. Why don't I try making watermelon wine? And he did a video about it. And he bought the different things, the carboy and the wine yeast, and then he tried making watermelon wine, and it turned out pretty good. And then we have another brother over at Ozark Tactical Homestead, Brother Fletch, excuse me, who's on a limited budget, and he makes wine out of grape juice. And it's a simple process, and it's kind of inexpensive. Instead of spending $15 for a bottle of wine, I spent, a couple of teaspoons of sugar and a little bit of a packet of yeast and some water and my own blackberries. So it's cheaper, and it gives you the power instead of you having to go somewhere to get wine if you want wine. And so that's why we made it. He made the watermelon wine, and then we had grapes. I showed you these little teeny guys that we get from High Prairie Acres. They were already there, and I'm a person, if the land is producing something for me and I didn't plant it, because I don't know if we even planted the grapevines at High Prairie, but they were growing over one of our buildings up there, and when we went up, there were little, bunches of grapes. I hate seeing that go to waste. I can't see that knowing the Father has given me this thing and say, well, I'm just going to ignore that. So once I made the wine last year, and this is the time of year you make the wine, because this is the time of year the grapes are ripe. And I made the blackberry wine earlier because the blackberries were ripe. That wine was ripe around the holiday of Sukkot, which is a biblical holiday, which is the fall holiday, the camping holiday. And I thought it would be a really fun thing to share with the other brothers and sisters that, hey, God gave me grapes. I made wine from the grapes. I think it tastes pretty good, and I'm not a big alcohol drinker. But there was just something about it, the flavor and the taste. There was nothing weird or bitter or biting on the tongue as wine that you buy in a store, because it's got sulfites or whatever preservatives in it, and it's not a pleasant flavor. The wine that I made, I thought tasted pretty darn good, and so I would let other people try it, and they all said the same thing. Hey, that's pretty good. Also, wine is biblical. Wine is in the Bible, and often wine is used as allegory, metaphor for the blood of Jesus. Comparisons are made. Comparisons are made between wine and the blood of Jesus. What?
What's going on over there in that bush?
Probably a goat. Are the dogs here?
Yep.
It's probably
Is that an okay bush for them to chew on?
Yeah, everything over there is too
We
much.
need to put collars on those babies.
Well, you do it when they're asleep or in the kennel or something. Anyway, I thought it was a really spiritual thing that we had grapes growing that we didn't plant, and that the Father talks about people working in the vineyard, and the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Take care of your vineyard, prune your vines, all sorts of stories in the Bible about wine. And then, you've got to know, Pastor and I are people who do a lot of varied things. We read a lot of varied topics. We're constantly interested in learning new things. And so one of the things that came up as we were, doing whatever reading we were reading wherever, there's a little country called Armenia over in Europe. It's got, Iran on one side and Turkey on the other or something. It's just a little country that's got Muslim countries all around it. And I had heard a long time ago, read, that Armenia was the first Christian nation, back when we were Christians. And
Declared
I thought, wow.
Christian.
Yeah, declared. Like the country itself said, we are Christian. And then my grandmother used to say, finish what I fed you, or I will take your leftovers and send them to the starving Armenians. And I had no idea what she was talking about. And so recently I was reading a magazine article about Armenian wine. And I think it was a National Geographic or Smithsonian article talking about Armenian wine is unlike any other wine in the world. It is like the great granddaddy of wines, and their grapes are like the great
they're
granddaddy.
the original grapes, cultivated grapes.
Right, original cultivated
Cultivars.
grapes. Like the grapes that we have now can be traced back to these vines in Armenia. And I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? And the whole world for the longest time didn't know that about these vines or this wine. But because Armenia is finally recovering, because what happened was the Turks during World War I did an exodus, did a genocide of the Armenians and marched them out into the desert and killed tons of them. Armenia is now kind of stepping into the light and opening their borders to ecotourism and hikers and stuff. And so wine drinkers are discovering this wine in Armenia that tastes unlike...
What did Noah do when he got off the boat?
Well, I'm getting there. Jump into the thing. They start researching this. Well, then Pastor brings up, hang on, what did Noah do when he got off the ark? And the ark supposedly rests at Mount Ararat. It's been found, and it's
the background of the Armenian capital.
Right, it's in the background of the Armenian capital. It's right on the border of Armenia, right there, and that's supposedly where the ark rests. And when Noah gets out of the ark, what is the first thing he does? It says he stepped on the land. Yes, Sergeant James. And then, what did he do? He planted a vineyard. He planted a vineyard. And then he made wine.
And that was the first vineyard planted after the flood. And
Armenia
has the oldest vineyard.
Right. First vineyard planted after the flood. Armenian vines and grapes are the oldest DNA original vines.
So it all goes together.
And a recent archaeological find, and again, I think it was Bible Archaeology Review Online where I read this, they found the oldest wine-making setup in a cave on Mount Ararat. Like the earliest winemaking...
Hey, that's my Gore-Tex.
Well, then you better go get those little goatees and get them off your Gore-Tex jacket. So, if you put all that together, if you put together the fact that the earliest winemaking, like wine press and operation in jugs and everything, are in a cave on that Ararat, that the ark landed on Ararat, that Noah got out and planted a vineyard, that all the vines in Armenia are the DNA, like great-grandfather of all the other vines in the world, boom. That's history, archaeology, and the Bible all coming from one point, and that is why I think making wine is so cool.
I think they're okay.
Right? You're doing something for yourself that's been done for thousands of years. I just find that fascinating, and that's why I do things like make vinegar and capture yeast out of the air and make jam and things like that, because this stuff is not new. It's all old. It's been done for thousands of years. We are humans. These are things we do, and they are gifts from the Father. So I know that's a really long answer to your question, but that is the truth. That is why I do what I do. No Gore-Tex for goats. No, they shouldn't eat it. Texas Wild Grape makes good wine. Hallelujah. Love it. I imagine it was better than dirty water. Exactly. If you ferment it, it's going to kill germs. Well, the Kardashians helped make Armenia more famous. Yeah. Kim Kardashian and her husband went there and did like a pilgrimage because her family was from Armenia. And it's a thing. It's just like with the, somebody's following you in the house, Pastor. These ghosts, they are so funny. It's just like the Jewish Holocaust. Somebody following you.
What?
Little goatees following you, Pastor.
Well, maybe I can catch one.
They're right up here on the porch. It's just like the Jewish Holocaust. The Armenians were killed, and my grandmother knew it. It was a thing around World War I that these poor Armenians had been marched into the desert, and a bunch of them died.
Maybe I can put that one.
Howdy, what kind of victuals we got in the pot tonight? Sugar, I don't know. What kind did you make? Are there any bad wild yeast one should worry about when trying to grow them? S. Walker, I don't know.
No idea.
I do know that there are more than one kind of yeast. There's like a bread yeast and a beer yeast and a wine yeast.
Champagne yeast.
There's champagne yeast. I know this much. You're capturing some yeast when you capture it. And what I did is I just put sugar water out, and the sugar is what captured yeast, and it started to bubble, and that's what I put in my wine last year. So whether it's the right yeast or not, it's going to do something. Goats are really cute, but they are rascals. Yeah, and they're very curious. Wine for the belly, right? Yeah. Wine for he who is sad. Yep. Yep. The Armenian genocide. And someone just did a movie about it.
Really?
Yep. I just watched a movie about it, I think. No? Oh, I can't remember now. I just watched a movie about somebody fleeing Nazi persecution. Man, I don't remember now. Isn't it amazing how there's all this proof that a lot of ancient stories aren't fiction? Totally reminded me... Come on now. Totally reminded me of the Homer's writings. Archaeology and listening to Rob Skiba make me think it's real. Okie Storm Chaser, there is a website called Bible Archaeology Review. It's a magazine. It's an online magazine. And you can buy a membership to where you can go read the archaeology magazine articles in their library. But they also will send you just notices in emails that often aren't the whole story, but enough of the story that you understand it. And there is tons of scientific and archaeological proof for things in the Bible. And it's ridiculous that historians will say, oh yeah, there's no historical proof for the Bible. It's because they run off the Egypt heavy history. So their history is, the middle period in the high period and everything of Egyptians, and this guy was the Pharaoh at the time, and so on. And they stick with it, and they try to fit all the other facts into their timeline, which is not always accurate. And there's a guy named Emanuel Velikovsky who wrote a book called Ages in Chaos, and he wrote that book like in the 20s and 30s. And he was a Jewish-Russian professor who spoke and understood and could read like ancient Babylonian cuneiform and Egyptian hieroglyph and everything. Plus he's Jewish, so he knows the Old Testament. And he found archaeological proofs in things like letters between kings, between the king of Egypt and the king of the Philistines and stuff like that, that coincided with the biblical stories.
But not the right date.
But the Egyptians were putting those dates like 700 years different. And so they would say, oh no, there's no proof that the biblical stuff was true. But Velikovsky was saying, stop using your Egyptian timeline, which isn't accurate, and shift it 700 years, and everything fits. And there's a thing called the Ipawar scroll, or the Ipawar... what am I trying to say? Egyptian things are on papyrus. The Ipawar papyrus has little bits of text on it that say things like, our whole culture has been trashed, and our government is in pieces, and every family's had a death there, and all our animals are dead. And that Ipawar papyrus coincides exactly with the plagues that were going on in Egypt when the Lord was bringing the Israelites out. And the Egyptologists say, no, it doesn't have anything to do with that because it's 700 years in the difference on their timeline. And Velikovsky said, no, man, no. If the Israelites are leaving Egypt, and Egypt is the biggest culture at the time, and it's getting trashed, their river god, their river turns to blood, and they have all the plagues and everything, the other cultures around them are going to be affected. And then he would read letters that these kings would send to each other saying, wow, we've had a horrible year. And
our river turned red.
You know, our river turned red, or our economy crashed because Egypt wouldn't send us bread anymore, and all sorts of stuff. He found all those facts and he wrote a book about it. And because he was a lone voice in the history world in the 1920s and 30s, they all lambasted him. They all said, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's crazy. It was terrible. It was terrible what they did to Velikovsky. And then two other people...
They're not getting any comments. I don't think they're interested.
Well, let me finish the story. Two other people since then have done stories about that same idea. And one guy did a documentary and got tons of fame and fortune for it. But Emanuel Velikovsky is the one who came up with the original idea. So look for the Bible Archaeology Review, or Okie Storm Chaser. As a young boy, I knew an old Armenian woman that no one could pronounce her name. So, thank you. Thank you for saying that. I knew an old Armenian woman that no one could pronounce her name, so she just went by Armeni. I just remember she had no teeth and was very kind. Well, you were lucky to have met her. Shalom, Matthew. Even though you don't know me, watching you for a long time. Okay. In short, Canton gets tornadoes because of geography and topography. Tornado frequency there isn't that bad, though, comparatively speaking. 100 minutes, the live streams take on a life of their own.
Hey, Zach.
Hey, Zach. Well, we got cut short. And I said I would come back online if you guys wanted to talk about Epstein, and we did. Is alcohol bad?
No, of course not.
David M. Why do you ask that, David M.? Why would you ask that? I find that a very interesting question. I want to thank both of you for helping me find the way. Love all this historical information. Well, thank you very much. And check it out yourself. I'm giving you my condensed version of what I've read over years. Check out Emanuel Velikovsky's writing. Check out his book. Look up Armenia. Look up Armenian wine. Look up the DNA. Look up the early winemaking process. Look up where they think the ark's found. I mean, ask these questions yourself. Go on Google. Do some research. You don't have to just take my word for it. I just find this kind of thing fascinating. That's why I'm always talking about it.
David Neck. Shalom, David.
Shalom, David. Are you going to the Viking meeting? If you're within 3 hours, Pastor says you need to go to that meeting. And Revolting Man is a very nice person, if you get to meet him. Overindulgence is bad, not the thing.
Amen.
Well, yes, drunkenness is bad. Alcohol consumption itself is not. And, again, the Bible talks about winemaking and wine.
And in Sukkot, you're supposed to save your tithes and buy strong drink.
That's right. And in Sukkot, that holiday, you're supposed to save your tithes and buy strong drink. Because the Father knows every once in a while you need to cut loose a little bit. Right? Wine is for the person who's sad, or how is it phrased? A weary heart or something like that? Did PJ find the dog? No, he did not. Right? You didn't see the dog? The bad dog, the husky? PJ.
No, not yet.
No, not yet. And we're keeping
when I do, I probably won't talk about it.
And we're keeping our goats up close, so hopefully. Okay. Any other questions? Because I've been going now for an hour and 43 minutes.
And I'm feeling a bit parched.
Feeling a bit parched. Need to do a little resting. Used my voice a lot yesterday. Kind of want to chill a little, so if you have any questions, now's the time to ask. Looking for land lately, ready to come out of her after baby was born 2 weeks ago. I've been seeing tons of cheap land in Oklahoma, cheap for a reason, or some gems to find.
I think it's possible, but I do also... Remember when that guy, was it Rob, Alyssa's dad, told us he really feels like a heavy spirit, probably from all the people that were forced to go there.
Mm-hmm.
There's some weirdness in Oklahoma. But there's a part of the Ozarks in Oklahoma.
Sure. The thing about Oklahoma, there are affordable places to buy there, but you'll want to see them. You'll want to see the area and what's around it, because western Oklahoma is way flatter and drier than eastern Oklahoma. Um, but we know some people who have bought in eastern Oklahoma, and they have some pretty nice places. But man, if you had a baby born 2 weeks ago, give your wife a little bit of a rest. She needs 6 weeks to recover from that thing before you start trying to move her. I get to buy imported foods thanks to Proverbs. Hey, the Bible is friendly. It's user friendly. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. Natural remedy for gout. I don't. Yeah,
water. I don't
yeah,
know.
lots of water. I don't know that much about gout. I do know this, that drinking too much alcohol can be the reason for gout. Excuse me. And so drinking a lot of water is actually a good suggestion. But excuse me again, you need to research a little bit more of that online, because I don't know that.
This is what I brought. Yes, you're good.
Wild hogs is the problem in Texas. They are a problem, and
burn your foot.
they breed sometimes 30 offspring in a year, and each female then can make more and more and more. They're very destructive. We don't eat pig, so it's not like it could be a free food source for us, but our neighbor does, and he goes south and shoots them, and that's part of his winter meat. I don't recommend eating pork. How do you think elderberry wine would be? I think elderberry wine would be just fine. I like elderberry jam, and I like elderberry pie. I do. And sounds almost like a drone.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't know what that is.
How weird. Any alcohol that you make can also then be turned into vinegar, including rice wine or any of that. So you can make wine from pretty much any fruit. Say hello to Home Skillet and the family when you see them. Okay. Thanks so much. It is a blessing for you all to have us into your home. Yep, you're right on our front porch with us. Yeah, I'm letting her rest, just checking the waters out there. Okay, good. Yeah, look around. You know, Oklahoma is the most geographically diverse state in the U.S. There you go. Okie Storm Chaser is a good resource. Cherry juice, Sergeant James says, is good for gout. Kombucha wine is good. Lots of water, lemon essential oil in the water. Eat vegetables and little meat for a week. I want to make it, but it's during the workday.
Dog, what is your problem?
Are you moving certain? Thanks for these chats. Really enjoy them. Thank you. Thanks for showing up. Wow, Mark Chase gave a very scientific answer. Potassium citrate may help to neutralize the overabundance of uric acid, which forms the crystals in the joints, producing the gout. Uric acid crystal buildup in the lower joints, basic topical arthritis remedies help too. Okay. Before coming out from my people, make sure you pay off outstanding debt, or the worries of Babylon will follow you. Yeah, definitely don't want to have debt. It's just a drag on you. Red wine vinegar is good. I made red wine vinegar. I like to cook with it. We need the comf shirt in a different color, preferably one that makes my eyes pop.
See if I can do that right now.
He said he's going to see if he can do that right now. Revolting Man, you are too funny. Oh my gosh. That's adorable. Baby blue, maybe.
Let me see.
Revolting Man, my son bought 20 acres and nearly has it paid for. Just need a well, and I'll be selling my home in Texas. Wells can be expensive. Oh my gosh. Or periwinkle. That part. That part.
Pastor Joe's out.
Oh, we heard a dog bark. Pastor Joe's out.
Dogs, come here.
Oh, man. My battery power is at 15% too. We could spiffy a design for it. Oh, that's eat clean and no problems. Well, there's something to be said for eating clean. Good luck on the hunt, people say. All right, you guys. Bless you. Thank you for showing up. I really appreciate it. I love your comments. I appreciate you watching the videos, and Pastor too. Do you mind, dog? Stop knocking my thing over. Bless all y'all, and we will see you next time. Shalom.